questions or concerns, please let me know. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Clara Song.
Oh, wow. Look at Carrie. We're already getting what to have a recording.
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. But yes, yes, Dr. Roberts has allowed us to record this, and recording has started. So thank you so much for joining us on our monthly grand rounds. We're here every third Tuesday at 12:15 on the dot. We get MOC and CME credits. That's MOC Part 2. So today we have Dr. Kari Roberts, who is a professor and neonatal intensivist and a physician scientist over at the University of Minnesota. And she is currently at the helm of research in less invasive surfactant administration and this journey with SALSA. And she's the current PI for the largest national multi-center study published RCT to date. She's also involved in some device development for supraglottic airways for the neonatal population and hopefully for in preterm population. Some really special things I want to let you know about her is that she grew up in the Halloween capital of the world. She also worked as a welder through college. So she's here to talk to us about SALSA. And I'm going to welcome her with her virtual welcome song. So anybody who grew up in the 80s,
That's right.
recognize this. And so take it away, Dr. Roberts. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this walk-up song is thanks to Clara Song because I gave a presentation a couple months ago and she asked what I wanted my walk-up song to be, and I had no idea because I'm usually not that fun to even think of something like that. So if you grew up in the 80s, yes, you'll recognize this as, let's see if I can figure out, Chips. So this goes with the Chips and Salsa theme, Ponch and John. So just a quick housekeeping for disclosures. I am a consultant for ONI Biotech and on the advisory board for Chiesi, both are which are surfactant manufacturing companies. And also I intend to talk about the LMA, which is FDA approved for ventilation, but not medication administration. And just a note about that is I'll refer to the LMA as just a generic term because LMA is actually a trademark name. So instead of calling it a supraglottic airway device, I'll just generically call it an LMA. And then also surfactant is administered through devices other than an endotracheal tube. So that will be off-label as we'll be talking about it through the LMA. So learning objectives, we'll just quickly compare and contrast some of the less invasive options that we have. And then we'll look a little bit more further into SALSA specifically, and then just a brief demonstration of how to do it. So as you know, this is going to be something of the past, seeing a baby this big intubated, because now our little ones are on CPAP. So does that leave us with an opportunity to still give surfactant? And the answer is yes. You can have your cake and eat it too, as that first slide shows. So you can have surfactant and NIV. Kind of the least invasive or less invasive methods compared to the traditional method include Insure, which I actually have a hard time even including because it's so similar to traditional, but also thin catheter, aerosol, and SALSA. So Insure, the Insure Gecko insurance, it's been around for over 30 years, most widely studied. And again, it's very similar to the traditional method of intubation and surfactant through an ET tube. But it differs that instead of just kind of weaning off the vent slowly, you either remove the tube right after surfactant is administered or within minutes to hours. The publications are a little bit varied in their outcomes because they vary so differently from just a couple seconds to extubation to having a couple hours on the vent. So compared to CPAP alone, the need for mechanical ventilation is decreased or similar, favoring Insure. But the ability to wean rapidly or the need for re-intubation is worse with Insure, and that's likely because of the adverse effect of premedication or the lack of response to the surfactant. Moving on to thin catheters, LISA is less invasive and MIST is minimally invasive. The LISA is by Dr. Angela Cribbs out of Germany. It's very similar to needing a laryngoscope and using a McGill forceps. So it's similar that you still need to place a tube through the vocal cords, but instead of using an ET tube, you use a thin, like feeding tube or some different type of catheter. The important thing about this is that there's absolutely no way for you to hook up a bag to that catheter. So as compared to an ET tube that you can still attach bag if you're tempted, with a feeding tube, you cannot hook it up to any type of positive pressure ventilation. Surfactant is administered slowly over just kind of some little pumps of the syringe, and the baby remains spontaneously breathing throughout with no PPV except for as a rescue. This is a still picture of a baby receiving LISA. You can see that there's a still laryngoscope and that there is a feeding tube being fed through the vocal cords with a McGill forceps. Kind of right above the forceps is a little green thing with a silver cap, and that's actually the baby being nasally intubated for CPAP. And then they have a special valve that they use in Europe that allows for good CPAP to be delivered. So this is a common, what a common delivery in Austria would look like. In terms of mist, it's also referred to as the Hobart method because it was kind of named after Peter Dargaville in Hobart, Australia. It's very similar to LISA, except for instead of using a feeding tube, you can use a vascular catheter. And again, no PPV on a routine basis.
Kari, if you can hear me, it seems like you might be frozen from our end. And we stopped off just after talking about Dr. Hobart.